Black Belt Radio is back. Welcome to Black Belt Radio, your martial arts podcast. It's been 16 long years since we last shared this space, and I couldn't be more thrilled to be back on air with you all. To our longtime listeners, thank you for your patience and loyalty. Your passion for the martial arts and your dedication to personal growth have always been the heart of this show. And to all the new listeners joining us, welcome to the Black Belt Radio family. Whether you're an experienced martial artist, someone just beginning your journey, or simply curious about the philosophy and discipline of the martial arts, there's something here for everyone. Together, we're going to explore the values, history, and spirit of martial arts and how they connect with our everyday lives. From deep dives into forms and techniques to inspiring stories from the martial arts community, this show is about learning, growing, and sharing our love for the journey. So tie your belt, adjust your stance, and let's kick things off.
Today we're getting into something I think we've all wondered about at some point, at least if you're into Tang Sudo like me. And that's caring for our uniforms. You know, we spend so much time picking the right Dobok, getting the right fit, the right feel. But then what? How do we actually keep it looking good and, ready for training?
That's such a good point, and it's something that often gets overlooked, but in Tang Sudo, the Dobok is way more than just a uniform.
Right, it's like almost symbolic, right?
Exactly. It represents our respect for the art, the training space, the dojang. And taking care of it properly shows dedication, commitment, really reflects our overall approach to training.
Yeah, I can totally see that. So how do we go about this the right way? Is there some kind of secret Tang Sudo laundry guide we need to know about?
Well, maybe not a secret guide, but the United Tang Sudo Association, the UTSDA, they do have some pretty specific guidelines. And honestly, some of them surprised even me. It's not just about throwing it in the wash, it's about preserving the Dobok, making it last.
Okay, now I'm really curious. Hit me with the first big surprise. What's the most important thing about washing a Dobok?
You have to wash it right away. Like immediately after every training session. No exceptions.
Whoa, really? Every single time? I'll admit, I'm guilty of letting my workout clothes sit sometimes, but I guess for the Dobok, it's a different story.
It really is. Think about all the sweat, the energy, everything you put into training. It all goes into that fabric. You don't want that sitting around, growing bacteria, and not to mention the smell. It can actually damage the fabric in the long run.
Okay, that makes total sense. I've definitely had a few smelly gym bag experiences myself.
Yeah.
So we wash it every time, but anything else special we should know?
Yeah, a couple things. Always use a mild detergent. You want to be gentle on the fabric, and don't wash it with other things that are heavily soiled. Your Dobok deserves its own load.
Got it. Mild detergent, separate load, like a spa day for the Dobok. Now, what about drying? I love my dryer. It's fast and easy, but I have a feeling you're going to say no to that one.
You're right on the money. The dryer is actually pretty bad for the Dobok. All that heat, the tumbling, it really messes with the fabric, causes it to lose shape, fade faster, and just wear out quicker.
Okay, that's a big surprise. I didn't expect that. So what's the alternative? We just hang it up to dry?
Exactly. You want to air dry it, ideally indoors, so it doesn't get direct sunlight, which can also lead to fading.
I can picture it now, my Dobok hanging out on a clothesline, looking all graceful. But realistically, it'll probably end up draped over a chair. But wait, I live in a pretty humid area. Won't it take ages to dry?
That's a good point, and that's exactly why the UTSDA suggests having a backup Dobok. That way you're always good to go for training, even if one uniform's still drying.
Okay, backup Dobok, check. So we've covered washing, drying, but what about bleach? I feel like that's the classic way to get that super white, clean look, So is bleach okay for the Dobok?
This one might surprise you, but bleach is a big no-no when it comes to Dobok care. I know it seems like the obvious choice for keeping things white, but it can actually do more harm than good.
Seriously? Bleach? Tell me more about why that is.
Bleach is actually pretty rough on fabric, It weakens the fibers, makes them more likely to tear, and, believe it or not, it can even make the fabric yellow over time. Plus, it can damage any embroidery or patches you have.
Yellowing. Definitely not the look I'm going for. It's no bleach. But what about if our Dobok is looking a little, dingy? Are there any natural ways to brighten it up without resorting to those harsh chemicals?
Oh, absolutely. Baking soda is a great one.
Yeah.
Just add about half a cup to your wash, and it'll work wonders for brightening whites naturally. Plus, it's super gentle on the fabric, so no worries about damage.
Baking soda, got it. Okay, so we've talked about washing, drying, and even bleach alternatives. What about pre-soaking? Is that something we should be doing with our Doboks, especially if we've had a, particularly sweaty training session?
Pre-soaking is a fantastic idea. It's like giving your Dobok a little extra care before the main wash.
Okay, I like the sound of that.
Yeah.
How do we actually pre-soak it properly?
It's really easy. Just fill your washing machine or a big basin with cold water, add some mild detergent, and let the Dobok soak for about 20 minutes. Then you can run it through a regular wash cycle.
Cold water, got it. Kind of like loosening up those muscles before a workout.
Yeah.
But why cold water specifically?
Cold water is really important because it helps prevent stains from setting in and makes it easier for the detergent to really get in there and lift all that dirt and sweat out of the fabric. Remember, it's all about being gentle with the Dobok.
Got it. So we've pre-soaked, washed, and hung it up to dry. Anything else we need to be careful of once it's out of the wash?
This is key. As soon as the wash is done, get that Dobok out of the washer right away. You don't want it sitting there getting all musty.
Makes sense. We already talked about how a damp environment is basically a breeding ground for bacteria, and no one wants that. So we take it out, and then back to hanging it up, Red.
Exactly. Hang it up right away, and make sure to smooth it out so it dries evenly and doesn't wrinkle. No wadding it up in a ball.
Okay, no wadding. Now let's talk about folding. I have to admit, I'm not the best folder. Is there a special technique for the Dobok to keep it looking sharp?
You know, a lot of people feel that way about folding, but it's not as complicated as it seems.
That's good to hear. So walk me through it. How do we fold a Dobok like a pro?
All right, so first you lay the Dobok flat and smooth out any wrinkles. Then fold the sleeves in towards the center, kind of like making a rectangle. Next, fold the bottom of the jacket up to the collar and fold it in half again. For the pants, fold them in half lengthwise and then in half again from the bottom up.
Okay, I think I can handle that. Kind of like origami, but for martial arts uniforms. So we've got the folding down. Now what's the best way to store our Dobok to keep it looking its best?
The most important thing is to keep it in a cool, dry place. You don't want it getting damp or being exposed to direct sunlight.
Makes sense. Just like where I keep my stash of chocolate.
Yeah.
But seriously, is there a preferred spot? A drawer? A hanger? Should I get a special Dobok vault?
A Dobok vault might be a bit much, but you can fold it and store it in a drawer, on a shelf, or even hang it up on a hanger. Whichever way you choose, just make sure it has some room to breathe and isn't crammed in too tightly. And don't forget about the belt.
Oh, right, the belt. We've been so focused on the Dobok itself. Does the belt need any special care?
While the belt doesn't absorb as much sweat as the Dobok, it's still important to keep it clean.
So do we wash it after every training session like we do with the Dobok?
You don't have to wash it after every single session, but it's a good idea to just wipe it down with a damp cloth if you need to get any dirt or sweat off it. And every so often, give it a deeper clean.
A deeper clean. Does that mean it's time for the washing machine?
Some people do put their belts in the washing machine, but the UTSDA generally recommends hand washing for a gentler approach. It helps preserve the fabric and any embroidery on the belt.
Hand washing it is. So how do we give the belt the royal treatment?
Fill a basin with lukewarm water and a little bit of mild soap. Then just swish the belt around gently in the water, no harsh scrubbing or twisting. Rinse it thoroughly and gently squeeze out any excess water.
Okay, gentle swishing, no twisting. So now that it's washed, how do we dry the belt?
Just like with the Dobok, you want to hang it up to dry completely. Make sure it's fully extended to prevent any warping or creasing. And again, keep it out of direct sunlight.
So much hanging. I'm going to need a bigger drying rack. So we've covered washing and drying. What's the best way to store the belt to keep it nice and organized?
The best way to store your belt is to roll it up neatly. That'll help it keep its shape and avoid any creases.
Ah, the classic belt roll. It always looks so impressive when martial artists do that. Any tips on getting that perfect spiral?
It's simpler than you might think. Just lay the belt flat, smooth out any wrinkles, and start rolling from one end, making sure it's nice and tight.
Tight roll. No wrinkles. Got it. And then we store it with our perfectly folded Dobok in a cool, dry place, right?
Exactly. That way your whole uniform is always ready to go, reflecting the care and dedication you have for your Tang Sudo practice.
I'm feeling so much more confident about my Dobok care now. But is there anything else we need to know to keep our uniforms in top shape?
We've covered a lot, but there are still some more subtle things that can make a big difference in how your dobok looks and how long it lasts.
I'm all ears. Let's hear those hidden Dobok wisdom gems.
For example, even something as simple as how you tie your dobok can have an effect on its lifespan.
I've never even considered that. I just tie it and go. Is there a correct way to tie it?
While there isn't one right way to do it, the main thing is not to tie it too tightly. If you tie it too tight, it can put stress on the fabric and lead to wear and tear over time.
So snug but not cutting off circulation. Got it.
Precisely. You want it to be comfortable enough to move freely, but still keep your dobok securely in place. And when you untie your belt after training, try to be gentle with it. Don't yank on it carefully, loosen the knot to avoid putting extra strain on the fabric.
Being mindful of how we tie and untie the belt. Who knew? It's amazing how something so small can make a difference in the life of the uniform.
It all comes down to mindfulness and respect for the dobok, both on and off the training mat. Which actually brings me to another interesting point, the tradition of bowing to the dobok.
I've seen that done in class, but I've never fully understood why. Is that something that the UTSDA encourages?
Yes, bowing to the dobok before and after training is a deeply rooted tradition in Tang Sudo.
So it's not just about keeping it physically clean, but also how we think about and treat it, right?
Exactly. It's about acknowledging what the dobok represents, our dedication to Tang Sudo, and treating it with respect accordingly.
That's such a cool perspective. It really makes you realize that there's a lot more to caring for a dobok than you might initially think. It goes beyond just laundry. It's about having a deeper understanding and respect for the art itself.
That's the beauty of Tang Sudo. It goes beyond just the physical techniques. It also stresses the importance of discipline, respect, and always learning, even in something as seemingly ordinary as uniform care.
We've talked about washing, drying, folding, even tying and untying the belt. Any other dobok wisdom you want to share before we wrap up this deep dive?
I think it's important to pay close attention to how your dobok is made.
What do you mean?
Well, different doboks might have different care needs depending on the type of fabric blend, the stitching, or any embellishments they have. It's always a good idea to check the care label. Or if you're unsure, talk to your instructor.
That's a good point. I admit I don't always check those care labels, and it hasn't always turned out well.
It's always best to be safe than sorry. If you're ever in doubt, ask your instructor or check out the UTSDA website. They have lots of good information.
Solid advice. Well, I'm feeling way more confident about my dobok care skills now, but I have a feeling there's even more to uncover in the final part of our deep dive. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive into Tang Sudo uniform care. It's amazing how much there is to know about something that seems so simple at first.
I know, right? We've gone from basic washing and drying to, the finer points of tying your belt correctly and the whole idea of respecting the dobok.
I feel like I've learned so much, and honestly, it's made me think differently about how I care for my own uniform.
That's great to hear. And before we finish up, there's one more aspect of dobok care I think we should touch on, something people often overlook.
Ooh, I love a good finale. What have we missed?
It's not so much a specific technique, but more of a mindset. It's about having real pride in how your dobok looks.
So it's not just about being clean, it's about looking sharp, representing Tang Sudo well.
Exactly. A clean, well-maintained dobok. It shows you're dedicated to the art. It shows respect for your instructors and the other students.
So making sure there are no loose threads, ironing out wrinkles, maybe even keeping a lint roller handy.
You got it. It's all about those little details. It shows you care about those details and that you're serious about presenting yourself well.
Kind of like that saying, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. But here, it's dress for the martial artist you want to be.
I love that. That's a great way to put it. And it's not about vanity or anything. It's about showing respect for yourself, the art, and the whole tradition of Tang Sudo.
So if we think about the bigger picture,
Yeah.
what does this, taking such good care of our dobok say about how we approach training and discipline in Tang Sudo overall?
I think it says a lot. Just like caring for your dobok takes discipline, paying attention to the details. So does mastering all those Tang Sudo techniques.
So it's almost like an extension of our training itself.
Absolutely. It's about applying that same level of care and precision to everything, both on the mat and in everyday life.
Wow. That's a really cool way to think about it. And I think it ties in perfectly with everything we've discussed in this deep dive.
We've covered so much, from the practical stuff like washing and drying and folding to the deeper meaning behind the dobok and why taking pride in how it looks is so important.
It's been a really eye-opening journey, and I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about beyond just the how-to of Dobok care.
For sure. And to wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with a question. How do you think the way you care for your Dobok connects to your overall approach to training and discipline in Tang Soo Do?
That's a great question for everyone to consider. And for those who want to learn more about Tang Soo Do, check out the UTSDA website. They've got tons of great resources and information there.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Tang Soo Do uniform care.
Until next time, keep training hard, keep learning, and of course, keep those Doboks looking sharp.
And that brings us to the end of this episode of Black Belt Radio. Thank you for joining us as we continue to explore the world of martial arts, leadership, and personal growth. If you enjoyed today's show, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow martial artists. You can connect with us on social media and stay updated on new episodes, special events, and more. Until next time, stay focused, stay disciplined, and keep training hard. This is Black Belt Radio, where tradition meets transformation.